Welcome to your doom.
What's up, folks? This is Justin.
This is Otto.
And we've got our special guest, Antoine's back. Sorry, buddy. I cut you off.
Yeah. We went through this before we hit the recording button. We literally went through this. And he was like, Justin's going to go, then I'm going to go, and then Antoine's going to go. Antoine heard me. I heard me because I was sitting here when I said it. Not sure what happened. What happened with you?
You know what? There was a delay in the video. That's what I'm going to say.
Good Lord.
That's what I'm blaming it on.
Good Lord.
There wasn't, but that's what I'm going to blame it on.
Thank you.
I guess I can't lie about something and immediately tell the truth, right? That kind of fucks up the whole lying thing, right?
I apologize to everyone listening to this. We've been doing this for a long time. We really got to work on those intros, man.
It's fine.
It's all good.
People know who we are at this point. You know what we should do to get people's attention is start it off differently. All right, I'll start it off differently. Okay,
go for it.
What's up, folks? This is Tiffany.
You know what? I'm not dealing with your nonsense, man.
Oh, all right.
No, I ain't doing it.
I would have gone with Brittany.
I want to be referred to as.
I would have gone with Brittany.
Brittany? No, I'm gonna go with Tiffany.
Yeah, he doesn't really look like a Brittany.
No. Tiffany.
I feel like
I think he looks more like a Brittany than a Tiffany.
You think so?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I would be a Barbara.
Ooh.
Listen,
you'd be a handsome Barbara.
Yeah, handsome Barbara's aside.
You know how he said that when he was stroking his beard? I'd be a Barbara.
Barbara.
I think I made it worse.
I'd make a good Barbara. All this nonsense aside, we are here to talk about the third in the Blade trilogy, the Holy Trinity, the Blade Trinity, the one that I think, Antoine, this is your favorite Blade movie, right?
Oh, it is. It is. It's so much my favorite.
So this movie, actually, I one thing I didn't write down is when this movie came out.
2004.
Yeah. 2004. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to the theater to see this movie when it came out. I had heard about the troubles on production. I'd seen the trailers and stuff. Again, same with Blade 2. I was kind of like watching all the trailers and really getting pumped up for it. But I heard some like stuff was happening during the production because this was like that early era of like the internet movie journalism, ain't it cool news stuff. Went to see the movie and came out disappointed at the time. I think disappointed was a word. It was more like I kind of prepared myself for something that wasn't going to be as good. So I came out talking about the stuff that I liked and just avoiding the stuff I didn't like. You know what I mean? That was the approach that I took. But yeah, no, I mean, when I came out of that movie, I was like, it didn't hold a candle to the first two films. And it was immediately obvious, like right off the bat from the first frames of this movie, I'm like, oh boy, we are in for, in my opinion, this movie is like, okay, have you ever wanted to see like a Lifetime made for TV movie Blade version? That's what this feels like.
Yeah.
Like this feels like,
Yes.
This feels like a Lifetime budgeted shot film, but it just happens to be about vampires and an action film. Like, and because everything is so flat, the whole movie is like, you went from like these visionary directors like Stephen Norrington and like Guillermo del Toro to a first-time director in David Goyer, who wrote the first two movies, obviously knows the character pretty well. But he was always working. And you notice this is a thing with David Goyer's movie history. Like anything that he's written that has gone on to be successful, he is always working with someone who is like a straight up visionary. So we're talking about like he's working with Stephen Norrington, or he's working with Guillermo del Toro on Blade 2, or he's working with Christopher Nolan on Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises. And like it's like, oh, David Goyer, like he seems like a talented guy, but anything that he's done cinematic, like film wise by himself, has not been very, very successful. It looks like he needs that collaboration with someone who can really add something new and unique to a project. This one, he wrote it and he directed it. And I feel like it's just the flattest of the three movies. There's no vision for the film. It's just very plain. The movie is very plain. Anyway, so that's kind of my initial take. And like, that's when I first saw it. Antoine, when did you go to see this movie in the theater?
I did. I remember going to the theater to see this movie because, it had Jessica Secret Bum Biel in it and Blade. So like Wesley Snipes and Jessica Biel, like, come on, why not?
Right. And she's jacked in this movie. Like she is like no joke, like jacked in this movie.
So kind of the same as you going into it. I didn't do any homework on it because I figured it's another Blade movie. But, right. Why the fuck not? So I didn't do any homework or any research on it, hearing anything that's wrong in production like you do nowadays. Yeah. I didn't care about that stuff. I didn't hear any of it. Walked in there and I was like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
What am I watching? This is ridiculous. I'm not going to go into anything right this second. Yeah. Because I have a lot of heated moments in this movie that are definitely going to probably come out.
For sure. Yeah. Justin, did you check this movie out in the theaters?
I did. I actually came out of it liking it more than I think I should. What's the best way to put this? I enjoyed it more than I should have. And it was completely because of Ryan Reynolds being just so out of place and comical. I liked that aspect of it. The rest of it, anything that actually had to do with Blade was flat and boring because that's kind of how it went. But upon rewatching it, so let's talk about the production troubles, right?
Yeah,
so
let's do that. You want to jump into that? Yeah.
Yeah. So from the get, and I want to tie this back to my thoughts on the movie because it kind of comes full circle. Mm-hmm. From the get-go, Wesley Snipes reportedly was like very, very upset about how the direction of the movie, because it was giving a lot of prominence to these what were they called? The Night Stalkers. Night Stalkers. That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
I thought you were gonna say day trippers. I'm like, where is he going with this?
No, the Night Stalkers, and reportedly Wesley Snipes was not super happy about that, and because of that, it was a very tough relationship between Wesley Snipes and the director, and seemingly the rest of the cast, to the point where he was demanding people refer to him as Blade. He was only speaking with David Goyer through like post-it notes and shit. Patton Oswalt, who played Patton Oswalt in this movie,
he just played himself.
He has, there's YouTube videos of him out there explaining kind of some of the situation and he has some pretty good anecdotes from that time.
For sure. Do you know any off the top of your head? Because like I remember them being absolutely hilarious, and I was just digging up an article right now.
Yeah, if you can dig it up, find the specifics. But like some of the stuff I remember, like the two things that were just outrageous to me was that he was demanding people refer to him as Blade. He was not rehearsing. He was not working with the cast. Like he'd just show up, do his lines, and go back to his trailer and refuse to speak to anybody.
He's fucking Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
Blade. No. He already did 2 movies. Like, how much rehearsing do you need from the guy who's been carrying the franchise?
True. That is true. But at the same time,
practice.
We talking about practice, not a game. No. But yeah, so he was just like, from the get-go, it was hard to work. He was extremely hard to work with, and it just sounded like nobody wanted to be there. That was part of the original franchise, as you can see by, and we'll talk about this more too. What's his name? Chris Christopherson. Just like, I don't know if there's something less, you're putting in less effort than phoning something in.
Oh yeah,
he did that. He called somebody and asked them to phone it in for him. That's basically what he did.
Chris Christopherson is on another planet, like while shooting this movie. Like
bananas.
He sent a text to somebody to text somebody else to text someone else to phone it in.
And honestly, what you just described is pretty much the communication process with Wesley Snipes on the movie as well. So,
okay. This is a little excerpt. I'm just going to read this from Patton Oswalt's story from the stories from the set of Blade Trinity.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes was just fucking crazy in a hilarious way. He wouldn't come out of his trailer, and he would smoke weed all day.
Yes,
which is fine with me because I had all these DVDs that I wanted to catch up on. We were in Vancouver and it was always raining. I kept the door to my trailer open to smell the evening rain while I was watching a movie. Then I remember one day on the set, they let everyone pick their own clothes. There was one black actor who was also kind of a club kid, and he wore this shirt with the word garbage on it in big stylish letters. It was his shirt, and Wesley came down to the set, which he only did for close-ups. And everything else was done by his stand-in. I only did one scene with him, but he comes on and goes, "There's only one other black guy in this movie, and you make him wear a shirt that says garbage, you racist motherfuckers." Holy shit. Oh my god, there's so much more here. Like there's so much.
I forgot he was partying a lot too. Like he would show up just completely like not ready to work.
I think he knew he was going to jail soon.
Yeah. So I have a theory on that. I'm pretty sure it was David S. Goyer that fucking ratted him out to the feds. Just my thoughts. I don't know whether that's true or not.
So it's like this whole situation is pretty funny because or not funny, but it's well, it is funny, but it's also oddly common. Like you see that through all these movies. Like when we were talking about Blade 1 and 2, Wesley was also a creative force on these movies. He's also the producer, right? I think his like Amin Ra production company. I think that's the name of his production company. But I've seen the interviews with Guillermo del Toro, and he's talking about, he's like, look, I bring a certain energy to, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's just what I remember from interview, where he's like, look, I bring a certain energy. I want vampires to look a certain way, and I want the shots to look a certain way. But when it comes to Blade, he's like, Wesley is Blade. This is like Del Toro talking in it. He's like, Wesley brings what he calls the bladeness. Like he had a word for it. He's like the bladeness, like when Wesley Snipes is like, look, when the action calls for throw the S blade, okay, that's the action, and catch the S blade. It's Wesley Snipes is like, okay, I'm gonna throw it like this, and when I catch it, I'm gonna spin 5 times and then reach my hand out, and this thing's gonna land in my hand. And Guillermo del Toro's probably like, sounds good. That's good idea, right? So there is a creative like drive behind that. So when you're now with a first-time director, David Goyer, who's written a script that does marginalize Blade's time in his own movie, that's a powder keg, like waiting to go off, right? There's no way that you can have all of these elements together and not expect like a total shit show. It was so yeah, no, it's like, yeah, Wesley was being kind of nuts in a crazy way on the set. But like the fact of the matter is, Blade is not in a lot of this Blade movie, right? So yeah, no, that shit was really that was a big thing. And Patton does that. He tells that story off, and it's really funny. If there's a video, I'm sure we can link it in the show notes or something. But there are some funny stories from the set of Blade, and the movie bears those marks. It's clear that something's wrong when they made this movie.
Now, so to bring this all full circle, so rewatching this, so obviously I rewatched because it's been ages since I'd actually seen it. This movie is so much better with that context, because if you watch this movie thinking that this is actually happening in real life and Wesley Snipes is just fucking up extras because he doesn't feel like actually acting, it is such a better film. Because every single shot of him when he's talking to like Ryan Reynolds or Jessica Biel is just so rough and so poorly delivered. And it's just like, if you're just imagining him saying, like, when he starts chastising
I love that. That's my
king.
Yeah, that's my favorite scene in the movie.
It was entertaining when I first watched it. Watching it now, when you think he's saying that to Ryan Reynolds, it's so much better.
Yeah.
And as he's beating up people in fight scenes and stuff, if you just think he's probably just fucking up an extra right now, he's just beating the ever living shit out of him, it's much more fun. So I encourage you to, if you rewatch this movie, rewatch it with that in mind, that it's actually Wesley Snipes doing this and not Blade.
Pissed off Wesley. Now that you say that, I'm remembering some scenes where he delivered a line where he's like, motherfucker, and it's like, that is coming from the chest.
Yeah, that's from the heart, man.
Like it's coming from deep.
That is from the heart. All right, cool. So those are the general thoughts. You guys ready to jump into the plot?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Let's do this. All right. Before we do that, Antoine, there's a little bit of anger issues you have with this movie. I feel like there's a lot of tension that we're going to release.
There's definitely some tension and anger within this film.
Use it.
I will use it. First off,
use it. This is Blade Trinity.
Why in the fuck is Ryan Reynolds? Don't get me wrong, he's Canadian, so I respect him, and he did a great job with Deadpool. But why in the fuck is he the voiceover at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, that is a very good point. I never that is a very good point.
Like when I first, like I had to rewatch, like when I rewatched it to do this, I was like, it's Ryan Reynolds at the beginning. Now I'm already pissed.
Yeah,
I'm already pissed.
yeah, because they have the credits sequence and like kind of Ryan Reynolds talking over. It's not even. I don't even know if there's text there. It's just kind of like this.
Yeah, no, there's no text.
Blood.
There's text and then it goes away, and then it's like it's into a shot of whatever.
Yeah. It starts off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, it starts off on the wrong foot for me, man. And
that's exactly what I meant when I said like the first frames of this movie. I'm like, oh, it's not looking good.
No, it is not.
Yeah. So we got Ryan Reynolds, goofy Ryan Reynolds voice introducing this R-rated action movie. And then we cut to a bunch of vampires in the Syrian desert. And this little crack team of vampire experts comes out of the fucking helicopter. I'm like, what is this, like the carnival in town? Like, I'm looking at this crew and I'm like, these guys are just all goofy as fuck. And then Triple H shows up. So,
was it even Triple H at that point, or was it Hunter Hearst Helmsley still?
I think he was Triple H.
I think it was Triple H at that point, right?
He was actually billed in this movie as Paul Levesque, like his non-wrestling name.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Asshole.
True story.
What an asshole.
Yeah.
Even more pissed off now. He didn't even use his wrestling name.
Yeah. And I guess he was like popular at the time, but he just looks like a total goofball in this movie. Like, he is not threatening. He is not he's not physically imposing. Like, he doesn't fit the bill in this movie at all.
Let's face it, the Three Stooges, as I'm going to refer to them for the rest of the movie, being Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Parker Posey, and that other jobber that I don't know his name.
Yeah, her brother or something.
Yeah, her brother in the movie, whatever. Those people are they're both the worst vampires and also the second funniest thing about this movie to me, because they are so wildly out of place. I actually really like them. I don't know why. Like, ironically, I guess it's just they're so weirdly out of place. I also really like Parker Posey because she's just so out of place, and just some of the way that she delivers some of her lines fucking crack me up.
Oh no, she's like legit amazing in this movie.
Yeah,
I think she is the one that is having the most fun.
Yes,
she delivers the best lines, and she's so oddly quirky. And I don't know if you've seen any other movies that she's been in, but she's funny. Like, she's
great,
great, and she's a good actress.
Like her.
And they I don't even like, when I first heard Parker Posey was going to be in this movie, I'm like, what are we doing here? This is just weird casting. But the stuff they do with her, I think a lot of it is hilarious. And like, that's one of the things that actually works for me in this movie is just kind of how goofy she is. But it's just like, the goofiness in this movie is really like, they really take it to the next level with her character, with Ryan Reynolds, and some of the other characters on the Night Stalkers. They do take it up a notch. But they're out in this pyramid. They're looking for the first vampire. They're looking for Dracula. And they sort of stumble on this thing, and he, like Dracula in full armor, pops out, and then it cuts to black, and then we cut to a different scene. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like one of the big problems with this movie. We've got a couple of things going on here. We've got Dracula, the first of the vampires. We've got the feds, basically the real world implications of Blade's actions as another plot point. And then we've got the vampire end game, the people in the, like the human blood bags, basically.
Yeah.
And I have no idea, why didn't they just roll with one of these ideas? Just one would have been totally fine. And personally, dragging the Blade franchise kicking and screaming from a hyper stylized reality into the real world with cops and shit, wrong move. I don't know why. Like that, it's an idea and it's fine. If they decided to focus on it, that's fine. I think it's a terrible idea. I think it's a terrible, because you look back at the other movies, I'm like, guys, this doesn't take place in the real world. Like, none of this takes place in the real world.
You don't even see cops in the first two movies, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, you see one guy who's a cop in the first movie, and he's a friggin' what's it called, a pet, and those familiars.
Yeah.
And he gets his ass kicked in broad daylight, and nobody cares.
And nobody cares.
It's funny, like, okay, so to your point, you mentioned that they had three things. They definitely went with the less interesting one, which is sad, because if Dracula is your less interesting one, less interesting potential plot, that's saying something either against Dracula and putting him in this universe, or the strength of the other two concepts. Like for me, the whole idea. Well, let me just read this too. So going back to kind of the Patton Oswalt thing. I probably reading the same article you did, but at the very beginning of the article, he said, this is Patton's quote. It's, "Oh Christ, that was the third Blade movie. And there's a scene where Blade goes in and confronts this guy for harvesting humans. That scene was supposed to be the whole basis of the film. Blade is fighting for the last shred of humanity, but they thought it was just so fucking grim. So they decided to have Blade fighting Dracula." So it sounds like they had to the point of the whole harvesting humans thing. It's you know what, actually, let me take back what I said. I'd actually prefer Dracula to that. And I feel like the harvesting humans thing was touched on in the first movie, and I didn't care. Like harvesting humans, they're, as opposed to what, eating them like they currently do. Like, it's not good either way. Like, yeah, I guess it's like mass farming, but I don't know. It just seemed like a logistical thing of how they could get better blood delivery. If it was a bigger scale than just like a bunch of guys in like the little sippy bags that you can feed food to Neha, like, then yeah, fine. But yeah, I think maybe if you do Dracula well, it could be a lot more interesting. They didn't do that here, but it could be done more interesting. But the whole concept of now, like, him getting out and having to deal with the repercussions of fighting the police force, that's an interesting kind of direction to go. And I thought that was going to be the whole basis for the film when we had seen it, because that was like very much the driver in the trailers.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we got, these three different things that just didn't make sense in the whole grand scheme of the film.
Yeah. Antoine, like, of those three kind of mishmash of ideas, which one would you have liked to have seen, or what did you gravitate to the most, if at all?
The anger is bubbling.
Yeah. Use it.
I wouldn't use any of them.
Oh, really?
Justin touched on it in the first. Justin touched on it. We did the feeding, using people as farming. We've done that. We have the Dracula thing. We kind of did that in 2, where we had a new strain of vampires. We kind of did that already.
Yeah.
Okay, like we don't need that. And then what was plot point 3 again?
Cops.
See,
fucking cops.
Fucking police. Like, fuck. It's always a black person versus the cops. Oh, like,
you know what?
Man?
Good point. Touche.
Like, every black movie has cops holding us down somewhere. So like,
they didn't actually touch on this in the movie, but they didn't know he's a vampire. He killed anyone. It was just they were just chasing Blade.
Yeah, it's chasing a black guy.
That's a good point.
Black guy in a black car.
Oh my god!
It's Saturday night for myself.
Saturday night.
A black guy in a black car. I drive a black SUV. Shit.
That's amazing. So none of these stories really mesh for you, like in terms of interest level.
Like if I had to pick one, and we have to focus on one, I would have gone with the Dracula storyline, and I would have done a whole lot better job at doing Dracula a lot better, giving him the justice that he is. He's Dracula. Like, I'm not a big horror guy, but like, if you're gonna use one of the big 3, if you count Frankenstein and Dracula and all those guys together, and Wolfman, Dracula, you need to come correct. Like, put some respect on his name.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I agree.
I agree with you, and I think Dracula was the most interesting one to me. Like you mentioned, like, it works for like horror fans as well. It's like, I'm a big horror fan, but if you're gonna bring Dracula into the Blade, the interesting thing historically is Blade's first appearance was in a Tomb of Dracula comic book, fighting Dracula. So I'm like, when they said they're going to introduce Dracula, I'm like, this is great because it's a little bit of something old. It's going to be a lot of something new, and that's what makes great like cinema, because like a lot of stuff, things have been done. You're never going to come up with something like so wholly original when it comes to vampirism.
Yeah.
But you put your own spin on it. It's a little bit of something old, a little bit of something new, and I was really excited. I'm like, what are they going to do with Dracula? What's he going to look like? And then Dominic Purcell shows up playing Dracula, and it's just atrocious. He is truly awful, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So yeah, Dracula shows up in this first scene, and then the next scene in the credits is probably the only action scene in this movie that I enjoyed. And the reason I say that is Blade is attacking a warehouse because whatever, vampires, right? And they get a little car chase sequence here, which was kind of fun. I thought that was kind of fun. But my favorite part of this was he does the Simon Belmont Castlevania thing, because he's got a stake on the end of a chain whip, and he starts whipping it around and killing vampires. I'm like, holy fuck, I'm watching a Castlevania movie. This is great. And then that scene is like 10 seconds long and it's over. But I was riding on that the whole movie. Like, right?
It started off for you. It started off okay.
Started off, reasonable. I'm like, oh, that was fucking cool, right? What do you guys think of this action sequence and the car chase leading up to kind of the reveal of the killing the familiar?
Justin?
Here's the thing, and this is kind of this is the problem with this movie, is none of it's memorable for me. Like, any of the action, like I can with a lot of detail recall most of the action scenes from Blade 2 and the first Blade 2 for the most part, but Blade 2 sticks, like some of the stuff they did sticks really well in my mind. What were you
first
saying?
Blade also, you said, I can recognize the action scenes from Blade 2 and from Blade 2.
Jesus Christ,
you meant Blade 1 and Blade 2.
I can hear another conversation in the house going on, so I'm a little like
oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, so from both of the first Blade films, that's kind of where I was going. It's like those action scenes are very memorable to me. This one, I honestly cannot, like, I just saw the movie. I can't remember any of it. That's how this movie, I feel like really suffers from, it seems like they're trying to borrow stuff from from the first two movies, and they do it much worse.
Yes.
Or they're not bringing anything new to the table. They're just like, some of the action bits are very similar. The whole concept, like the Castlevania thing is great, but it's also similar to kind of what they did with some of Blade's cool weapons in the first films too, where it's kind of like a one shot and then you don't really see him use it again.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're right.
I can't remember if he uses the chain one in this. I feel like he might have used it in the final battle one time against some vampires. I can't remember. But in any case, like, it didn't seem like a prominent weapon. But like the S Blade was a good example of that. Like, he used it kind of in the first scenes and never really used it again in the first couple films. So yeah, I mean, overall, that action scene really didn't stick out to me. And honestly, it's going to be kind of the trend. Just in and out, really.
Antoine?
I'm with Justin on this one. Like, until you reminded me about the Castlevania scene, I was like, shitty fight scene. I remember the shot in the back, and then the cops come in.
Yeah.
But that's like the only highlight out of it, because that was the only thing that stuck out. Like, I'm in the car, so like him driving the car, chasing everybody down, running that guy over, and then jumping out of his car and shooting that guy in the back, and then him not turning to ash and stepping over, but like, why aren't you dust or whatever? And whatever line he says, and he's like, oh, you're done. We got you. Like, that's the only thing that sticks out.
Yeah. Parker Posey on a building with a video camera.
A video camera from like, I guess it is 2004, but it looks like it's from 1994.
Dude, that's a big ass camera.
It was a big ass fucking camera.
Yeah. So like I said, there are things that I do like about this movie. I'm showing this action scene a little bit more love than you guys are. But I totally get it. It's not a knock your socks off moment, but I can pick and choose the moments that I like, and I kind of focus on those. So after this, he kills a familiar, and I find it funny that he can't tell that this guy's a familiar because he's been killing vampires for so long. And in the first movie, he literally says he can smell them. Like, I feel like that's a line in the first movie. Anyway, whatever. So he kills a human, not for the first time. And suddenly the cops are involved. So that's weird. We've been through two movies and they haven't been involved at all. And so and then he goes back to his like the Blade lair, which is kind of a waterfront warehouse thing, which I thought was kind of a cool set, like the way it was like a giant harbor front sort of like house marina thing. So goes back, and then we have really dry dialogue between him and Whistler, like you guys mentioned already. Whistler just phoning this in. He doesn't care. It's like, just give me my check. I got to get the fuck out of here. And then we give screen time to the actual detectives following Blade's case. Like, they actually get minutes and minutes of screen time, these two guys, and then they disappear for the whole movie, and then they just show up randomly at the end. And I'm just like, why are we doing this? Anyway, it's James Remar, the guy with the deeper voice. I like him. I think he's a good actor, and he's the voice actor. He's a voice actor as well, right? Is he not?
He's done some voice acting too. He was the bad guy. Do you remember The Phantom with Billy Zane? I think it was Billy Zane.
Yeah, I remember that.
Not a great movie, but for some reason he really stuck out to me, and that he was a villain in it. But I've liked a lot of the stuff that he's done. Yeah, he's fun. He was fucking Raiden. He was Raiden in Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
That's who he was. Right.
That's okay. I was trying to remember because I remember from Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious. So and I was like, where else do I know him from? And I'm like racking my brain. I'm so glad you said he's Raiden, because I'm like,
of all of the cinematic interpretations of Raiden, he is the only one to have done the Superman move on film, and they put in the actual sound bit from the actual game where it just fucking flies at Shao Kahn. Oh god, yeah, he's terrible in that movie, but I don't think it's his fault.
It's not his fault. He's a good character actor. He definitely has that. He has that voice and face that you recognize, and you've seen him. He's always playing like secondary characters. I can't
remember the name of the character he plays on Black Lightning, but he's like kind of the mentor for
the Netflix special or
the Netflix show. Yeah, he's
I think it's a CW show, but then it was I don't know. There's some weird the ownership of it. I'm not sure, but it is on Netflix, and it's quite good. I really, really enjoyed that movie or that show.
I started it, but never got into it, and I'm bad for that. Like, I'll start something and then I'll have like 6 episodes left to watch, and then I won't finish it.
You just won't finish it.
Yeah.
I watched I kind of did the same thing on Black Lightning, but I didn't complete it, not because I didn't like it, but like you said, sometimes your attention just kind of drifts off to other content. But I remember being really blown away by actually like how like gritty the show was, like, and then like the issues that the show is dealing with. I thought this was going to be kind of a lighter fare. And it turns out, I was watching the first few episodes. I'm like, oh, some of this is like pretty heavy stuff. Yeah. And I was applauding the series for that, because something like say like Supergirl or like the other CW shows are they're
fluffy.
They're fluffy, right? Yeah, Flash and stuff. But this one definitely
goes into some, I don't want to say dark territories, but at least a lot more mature.
Yes, mature is the right word. I think that's the right word for it.
It's more. I feel when I was watching it, it was more like when Daredevil came to Netflix, it was more like that kind of grittiness.
It wasn't quite at that spectrum, but it certainly wasn't the like standard CW spectrum. So it was certainly somewhere in the middle. And I think that's not a bad spot to be. Like, I don't think you have to be on one side or the other to be a good show.
Yeah.
And I really like it. I like it more than most of the others. Like that one, I found myself returning to more than I did like Flash or Supergirl. Arrow I was kind of okay with, but again, that's also another one that I was like back and forth on. But I thought that there was more it felt more genuine. Like it felt like everybody that was there it felt like everybody was there for the right reasons. Whereas at a certain point in Arrow or the Flash, it seemed like they were kind of rehashing the same things and people were just doing the same thing again. That's
the lead actor in Black Lightning as well. I like him a lot. I think he's a good actor, and he's an imposing figure too. Tall
he's
dude,
a big fella.
He's a big dude. Yeah, he's a big dude. So
I think it's Cress Williams is the name.
Cress Williams. Yes, that is his name. That is his name.
Say my boys, he's a bigger.
Bleep. We don't have we release as is. There's no editing, so if we're gonna drop it. We're gonna drop it, right?
Yeah. I don't want to edit it. Please don't say it.
I won't say it.
Okay, hold on. Before we move on from Black Lightning, I want you guys to guess how old Cress Williams is.
Black don't crack. So that's lying. Because black don't crack. So I'm gonna go. He's 45 years old.
45. Jesus Christ! When I saw him, I was like, he's like late 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's 50 fucking years old.
Told you, black don't crack, man. You gotta add 10. Whatever you think it is, add 10 for a
Like I looked it up just to confirm that that was his name, and I see July 26, 1970. He was born in Germany.
That guy is actively moisturizing, like for sure.
Every day. Every hour.
Holy smokes. Yeah, he's a hunk. That guy's a fucking hunk, man.
Yeah,
like he was on I feel like he was on another show that my wife Shagu was watching. Not Gilmore Girls, but like another show that takes place in the South, and he's in it, and he's just mad. He's just dreamy. Like the dude is just dreamy. Anyway, dude. Yeah, good looking dude. What were we talking about? Anyway, listen, folks, go watch Black Lightning instead of Blade Trinity. If you're still interested you're still interested in Blade Trinity, please continue listening to this show. So we get the scenes with Chris Christopherson, and the feds show up and they blow the joint up, and Chris Christopherson, Whistler, dies again.
Yeah, he dies again. Fuck.
And Blade has this really weird reaction to it where he just kind of sits cross-legged on the ground
and cries.
He cries.
And cries like a bitch. He turned Blade into a bitch. What's going on?
Oh my god, that was so fun. Like it was just an odd reaction where he just kind of sits. He was just really sad.
Mopes, yeah.
Yeah, he's just
like,
mopey.
He looked like my son when he's having a temper tantrum.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. So and then we get introduced to the Night Stalkers here at some point, because Blade is basically taken away. And Parker Posey and the sideshow vampires have, for whatever reason, there's a logic jump, because at the beginning Dracula breaks out and looks like he attacks all the vampires, but it turns out that he just lets them take him to this city, this fictitious city. Yeah. So he's just chilling in his cell. Like, I don't know what they've got.
How they got him in a cell, Lord knows.
They've got Dracula in a cell. Parker Posey goes in there, talks to him. It's really weird because like she's like, oh, I'm going in there to talk to him. She goes in there and she looks at all the bodies lying around because he's been feeding, and she gets scared. And I'm confused. I'm like, are you a vampire or are you not? Like, isn't this kind of just normal? Don't vampires just kind of like have like bodies lying around everywhere? Why is this terrifying you?
I feel like that's weird. The equivalent of like after a binge night of drinking, like coming down into my basement and seeing me there with like McDonald's wrappers all over the place. Like it's the same thing. Like, why are you surprised? Like no one's gonna come down and see that and be horror struck. Like,
oh like, my god.
It must have been a wild night.
It's just Saturday.
You're eating all that McDonald's. That Uber Eats bill must have been crazy.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Multiple bags. I went back for a few times. Yeah. Exactly.
So they again, Blade's blood is the key to stuff. And
not this time. It was Dracula's blood's the key this time.
Dracula's blood's the key, but why do they need to capture Blade? They needed to
save him, I think, because they wanted to use him to get to Dracula.
That's so, I don't even remember why they didn't just kill him in the cell, because they've got him all tied up. He's all doped up. They have this, again, they're taking the real, and you see how confusing this is to explain. This because you have these three competing plots all intertwined in the most messy way possible, because they have these two like this talk show going on in the background too, about people talking about vampires and whether they're real and whether they're not. And it turns out every personality on that show is a familiar. This guy has the weirdest conversation with Blade in the interrogation room. I don't know. It was just really weird. And we get these close-ups of Blade being all like weird and sweaty. Just like, and drugged out. Anyway, all of this stuff was, we go to the next action scene. Blade is rescued by the Night Stalkers, consisting of Abigail Whistler and Hannibal King. And we have this action scene. Again, if you watch this action scene, this is not out of a place in like an early Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode. That's what this looks like. Yep. It is just awful. Like the action is just awful in this movie. That first action scene, I liked. This one is where it's like it's like an episode of a low budget television show. And it's totally awful. Blade finds out that Whistler had a daughter. He does have one cool moment where he jumps out of like a 4th story window because he forgot his sword. And that's the only
he jumped from far, bro.
Was it?
I think it was more than 4 stories.
Was that higher? Yeah,
I think it was a little higher than that. But
Um, yeah, and then we get this ridiculous getaway where they're like totally surrounded by cop cars, and one dude in a van says, "Get in," and they just jump in the car and drive away, and the cops just are like, "Oh, they drove away."
Yeah,
That's it.
what are we gonna do about this? It was
nobody follows them. Nobody does anything. I'm like, if you're gonna do this real world shit, you're gonna fucking do it then. God damn it.
It was one of these like giant vans that I would go to basketball tournaments in with like 20 other guys in like a giant van, and they just drive in very slowly past the like, it wasn't fast. It wasn't like the car was waiting for them in front of it. It wasn't like it was bulletproof and the cops were shooting at it and they jumped in from the side. It wasn't like the car was going and they ran into the moving vehicle. No, he just kind of bumped a couple of cars, drove in front of all the other cops. They got in pretty comfortably. Like, it was like they had literally just gotten to their Uber. Yeah. And then they don't really speed off, but they just drive away. And the cops are like, oh,
there they go.
There they go. Parking our cars in this exact configuration. We can't mess this up.
Yeah. It just looks really nice from like a aerial view. You know, it's like synchronized swimming.
Yeah. There was also one thing I wanted to call out, and it's such a minor, stupid thing, but every time I can't help but hear it. And if you guys ever watch this movie again, I don't know if you will, I'd like you to listen for this. There's a moment where the guy comes in to relieve the two detectives that we never see again. And I don't know why James Remar is playing this guy, but they start yelling at each other. And then he just goes, "Don't fuck with my thing."
Yeah. I remember that line.
And I'm pretty sure that was the last thing that he says. And then he just walks out of the room.
That man is my prisoner. Don't fuck with my thing.
Dude, you just
broke me. Because, like, it's one of two things. Either one, somebody painstakingly while writing this movie went, "We need a good line. We need him to say something genuine." And he says, "Don't fuck with my thing." And he gave that to James Remar, and that's how he performed it. Or James Remar forgot his line and he said, "Don't fuck with my thing." And they kept it in the movie. And it's so awful. And they kept it. It blew my mind. So if you're ever watching Blade Trinity, if you're listening to this right now, or if it's us or whomever this is reaching, if you listen to it, listen for that line and let us know what you think, because that blew me away. I still hear it to this day. I'm pretty sure I caught it the first time. It's so ridiculous.
That you're absolutely, you broke me, because like, I remember that shit. I remember that. It's so funny. It is funny. I remember laughing, but I just didn't remember. I didn't take it away. I'm so glad you mentioned that, man.
Yeah.
I feel like
I'm so happy you did.
That's like going to be a sound clip that's got to come back. Don't fuck with my thing.
I'd love to know if that was improv or if it was just like a missed line, like it's just a mistake and nobody was paying attention. Like, fine,
that was the best cut, and we couldn't.
Blade is over there beating up extras. I can't care about this right now. Okay, he's gonna choke the director. Let's just wrap this scene. And there's some really bad, like you mentioned that the action in this is like out of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer
early show episode, about like first season.
And you're absolutely right. Like there's just such poor attention to detail to this.
And that I don't want to shit on Buffy too much. Like that wasn't the point. Like when I'm watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer Sleason, that's what Slayer season one, whatever season one, and I know what I'm expecting, but there's like there's punchy writing. It's fun. It's interesting. Like, I don't watch Buffy to watch the action. Like, that's not why I'm watching that show. You know, if you know, when I did, I only ever saw the first season, but when I'm watching Blade movie, I am primarily watching this movie for the action. Right. And when you can't deliver there in this scene, which is just truly awful and slow and lethargic, it just feels like they took a scene from the first Blade with the strobe lights and stuff, and they basically just, you know, doped everyone up on like horse tranquilizers, and they're like, okay, now let's do this action scene. And it just looks awful. It looks truly awful.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. They phoned that one in for sure.
Yeah, like this is the Chris Christopherson Whistler of action scenes from Blade Trinity.
Yeah.
That's what this
is. I don't think Ryan Reynolds was the right person to have in that scene as your main guy to fight other vampires, especially even Triple H. Triple H, even not as a vampire,
No.
Yeah,
Reynolds is not fighting him.
No.
I think there's some disagreement. I want to do this right now. Let's do this now. There is some disagreement. So we've introduced the Night Stalkers, okay, and we get to meet all of them, and we get to see all their cool guns, the coolest, like the cool guns that they never use. They
that light blade shit that only gets shown twice.
Yeah,
why the fuck is that not being used every damn time?
Yeah,
we need to talk about that more.
Yeah, and the giant cool like shotgun thing with the different like the 3-barrel shot. I'm like, what? Yeah. Nobody uses that. So yeah, it's just a reason for Patton Oswalt to nerd out and do his thing. The Night Stalkers are in my opinion, are kind of mostly forgettable. But let's talk about Hannibal King, because I actually think I don't like Ryan Reynolds in this movie. Like, I actually don't. I don't like him in this movie. Yeah, so I think there is some disagreement. So Justin, I know that you do like him in this movie. Please tell us more.
Okay, so let's put it this way. He is that perfectly, like, it's like it's polished, never been hurt. It's just it's this beautiful, pure piece of corn in a very large pile of shit. And here's the thing. This movie from the get-go, is going to be a pile of shit. And then you've got this guy that is so clearly against the grain, and he's kind of entertaining. He's funny. He makes me laugh. He's just kind of, he's you know what it is too? There was also kind of this lead up to this film. So to talk about Ryan Reynolds in general, I would argue that this film is what actually broke him into stardom. Now, before this, his big film was Van Wilder, and that was notable for him.
I remember that.
But this one, he went through a physical transformation for this, packed on jacked. A ton of muscle. He was on magazine covers all over the country about this. They were writing articles on the internet about this, showing before and after pictures, especially when he's in when he's all chained up and shit. Like, there's pictures of like what he looked like, and that was a big deal. This movie really put him in a very major kind of role in a film that had such press in it. They got him a lot of attention. In my opinion, this was probably one of the most important movies in his career, which is crazy, but it kind of is.
Yeah. I can see that.
Now, back to why I like him in this movie. I like that humor that was in Van Wilder. I'd only seen Van Wilder once, and I was not really paying that much attention. So when I had seen this, for me at the time, it was kind of fresh, and it was kind of funny the way he was kind of just like navigating around. He was the only interesting thing or entertaining thing to watch in this dry ass movie. So if I'm going to be disappointed by this movie because Blade is not good in this movie, like they're not treating Blade appropriately, well, then you know what? I'm going to try and enjoy the one thing that I am actually legitimately enjoying, despite the fact that it's not actually Blade in a Blade movie. So it's basically, in my eyes, it's probably me trying to make the best of what I can. Also, he says two of the best insults to a single person I have ever heard in a movie then and since. I can't think of any. And I'm going to say them. And I know that I said at the very beginning, but being Uthal, I can have a potty mouth sometimes. And before we actually started this podcast, he gave me one rule. I'm not allowed to say one word.
Oh, did we say we did.
You did. And I have stuck to that. I'm going to break it now just for this one time. And I'm not going to say it again. But he calls Parker Posey a cock juggling thunder cunt.
That was a great line.
And then he proceeds to call her a horse humping bitch. And if you can find better insults in a movie, I dare you to send it my way, because I'd be happy to know, because those two lines fucking broke me, and they were one after the other. So as much as I was enjoying him up until that point, I feel like once that hit, it solidified it. Like, this is the guy for me in this movie.
Right.
And that was towards the end of the movie. But at that point, like I said, in my opinion, this is me trying to make lemonade out of a lemon movie. And Ryan Reynolds was the most entertaining thing in this film.
He was the lemonade.
He was the lemonade.
He was the lemonade in
my Canadian lemonade.
Your pasture of lemons.
Yeah.
Canadian treasure.
All right, Antoine, tell me how you feel about Hannibal King.
I don't like him. I think this was a Hannibal King movie. This was not a Blade movie. It was a Hannibal King movie. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
This movie was Hannibal King featuring Blade.
Yes, that's
100%.
absolutely true. Yeah,
100%.
100% right. I think that was the direction from the studios, that they wanted these Night Stalker characters to kind of carry on the franchise.
And they did say that. They did say that in the script. They did say there was a scene where I think it was Hannibal King. He's like, "We're here to help you, and when you're gone, we're going to continue."
Yeah.
So,
which is not good, but it's not just good. But that's what
you know, like to me, I really, this could have been a spinoff. Like, this didn't have to be third in the franchise. It could have easily have been, you know, let's do another third movie, and then it's like a Night Stalkers movie.
Yeah.
And then Blade just kind of trickles in and like he helps him out for one mission or something like that. You know, like it didn't need to be the way it was. It was a Hannibal King movie the entire time. You know, don't get me wrong. I like Ryan Reynolds. You know, I'm shitting on him for this movie, but I watched Van Wilder, and all I saw the entire time I was watching this movie was Van Wilder in a Blade movie.
Absolutely. Yep. Like I 100% agree with that. And frankly, a lot of other, and again, I feel the same way about Green Lantern, because I know we talk about it's not Ryan Reynolds' fault for Green Lantern.
It's not his fault.
But hold on. It is, because they knew it is as in they knew exactly what they were going to get. They basically you got Van Wilder, Hal Jordan, and we have Van Wilder, Hannibal King. Like, it's the same guy. In both movies. In fact, I feel like Ryan Reynolds does run into that problem in all of his movies, that he's playing a very similar character. Like there's like different versions of it. It's a always like quick-witted, kind of goofy, you know, like that kind of role. He has done dramatic stuff, and he's a good actor. But this is his bread. This is his bread and butter. You know, like, and I don't blame them. They know what they're getting. Like, you know, when you get the guy from Van Wilder to be in Blade, he's not suddenly going to be like a dramatic actor, right? And that's not what you need. But what they wrote here was just his dialogue. I just feel like his dialogue's all overwritten. It's like David Goyer going totally fucking ham, taking like Nipplehead from like Blade 2 and like writing an entire fucking character around that one line.
Nipplehead, the movie. Blade.
I feel like Goyer didn't even write half the lines that Ryan Reynolds did. I think he ad-libbed a whole lot of the script. I think he had his
was a lot of
lines, and then like all his insults, like insert insult here. Yeah. That's where you got that nipple or that nipplehead and the cum dump, whatever dumpster or horse, whatever, like horse whore, like those all have to be ad-libbed. There's no way he's writing that into a script.
Yeah. No, I believe that, because it is consistent with Reynolds playing these characters. His lines are very much like they are in this movie. They are like quick-witted, like hard-hitting insults, funny dialogue. And I was like, and the worst part about it is that I think that Whistler having children isn't interesting. Like, I actually think that was something that was interesting. But Abigail in this movie, she's just so ridiculous. Like, I just couldn't get behind her, right? So, like, we talked about Hannibal King. Let's, talking about Abigail Whistler. First of all, she's jacked. Physically, she looks like she can do what, you need her to do in this movie. And I think she looks great. But
her fight scene was pretty good too. Her fight scene in the subway was really good.
The subway, that wasn't bad. Yes. Yeah, that wasn't bad.
That one actually sticks with me a little bit.
Yeah. That wasn't bad, but I feel like her other fight scenes are not particularly good. It's not done particularly convincingly, nor is Hannibal King's. And
no,
the closest thing
out every goddamn time.
Yeah, like his are not particularly interesting as well. But they give her like this bow and arrow, and then they do like probably what is like the second worst idea in this movie, which is like she puts in the iPod headphones when she fights. I'm like, this is just. You're making this less and less interesting as time goes on, unfortunately. Okay. Well, I mean, I kind of get why you Justin like Ryan Reynolds in this movie, but yeah, I just can't get behind it.
That's fair. I'm not gonna. I've argued my point.
Yeah,
I know that it is a very. It's not a Blade centric point. It's just Justin likes Ryan Reynolds' humor. And I know that's not your thing, Couple, for sure. given your feedback on the
I like
Deadpool
his
franchise.
humor. I just was not prepared to see Van Wilder.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely what he is in this. I've described him in the past as essentially that, as Van Wilder in a Blade movie, and that's that's nail on the head. That's exactly what it is.
All right, so those are the Night Stalkers, and then we get Blade meeting the Night Stalkers, and he's got what is probably the greatest scene in this movie, where he just rips into all of them. I actually thoroughly enjoy this, and this does benefit from looking at it as Wesley Snipes just being like, "Fuck you guys."
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck are you? I love when he says, like, you're not, he's like, are you really are you ready to roll with this? When he's just like ripping into them, that you're like, Antoine, you were saying, from the heart. Like this scene was like, I'm like, ooh, he's channeling some real life frustration into this, into this conversation. Quick point about, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, he didn't even know the camera was rolling during that. He was just yelling at them.
They just a couple of things about Blade's look. I think his vest, the tactical vest, they changed it again. I think it doesn't look great in this movie. Not a fan. But what I am a fan of is they extended the tattoos on his back that go up a little bit higher, and he's got a goatee in this movie. So I was like, what Blade needs is some fucking facial hair. Like, I think if Blade had a beard or a goatee or something, he's got a goatee. And I think they have like the tattoos connecting to his, like the sideburns on the side of his head.
Yeah, they come down like his neck and the back of his neck, and they come into like his fade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, oh, this is fun. It's like cool, interesting stuff that they did there. And they have him wear the red shirt when he's captured. Like, he's wearing the long sleeve, like, red shirt. I'm like, okay, cool. These are all like call outs to the previous movie.
Yeah,
because he's got
inside of the jacket red as well too.
Yeah, the jacket lining, and stuff like that. So some fun stuff there. So we get the antics back at the vampire circus, where they're like talking to Dracula, and Dracula just apparently is not affected by the sun. So he goes out for a walk, slow motion walk. And let me tell you guys, there is a lot of slow motion walking in this movie. A ton of slow motion walking. And it is so like, it feels like late 90s like ish music video stuff. And it's just like really awful.
It's so bad.
Dracula looks like he came out of like a late 90s music video.
Yeah.
Like a very boring one for like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. He's got like the deepest V-neck that's like almost just like a button
comes down like his navel.
Dominic Purcell, we'll talk about him for a second. He's not good and he's not particularly good in this movie. I have seen him in other things in which he is good in. I just think that this is a terribly written Dracula. He's not interesting. They didn't really give him any screen time because they're chopped up between so many different ideas, not focused. He has this little confrontation with Blade, where they do a little foot chase, which when I was watching it again, I was like, this is kind of fun, but it stinks of like, it's not very cohesive, like this foot chase that Dracula he steals a baby and he goes to the roof and they have this, ridiculous conversation and then Dracula throws the baby and Blade does a backflip and catches this baby. And I'm like, this is not working for me.
Yeah.
Like this whole scene.
It's about his humanity or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It had a lot of unnecessary flipping. Like, he flips down and then he flips onto the side of the building, even though they're on this giant square roof and Dracula's standing on the edge with the baby, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. But then Blade goes and jumps on the other edge of it, but far away. So what the fuck is he doing on the edge? Like, it's so ridiculous. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
One thing that does stand out about this, and I've talked about it in the other two ones that we did, was the soundtrack. So again, the soundtrack for this movie. Exactly. Yeah. So the RZA, and I'm probably gonna pronounce his name wrong. It's Ramin Djawadi.
I know who you're talking about. He's done Game of Thrones. He did
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim.
Yeah. So he is the composer for the film, but the RZA also did some composing, so they kind of worked together on some tracks, but the RZA also did an original track, if maybe more than one, so he was heavily involved. The two songs that stand out for me are Fatal, which is used heavily. That instrumental I'm in love with. It was like my ringtone for like a decade. Yeah. Like I love that tune. Love the instrumental on that. I think the RZA is fucking super talented. I love his stuff.
He is.
And there's another song called Thirsty with the ODB on
the end.
Yes, that is the one at the end. Great track, real chill, like hip, chill out hip hop track. Apparently at the time, and I'm not sure if this is still true because I know that Old Dirty Bastard like passed away either just before this movie was released or in and around the time this movie was released, I feel like. And I think this was the last vocals that he recorded before passing away. But I know that since then they've done some like post-mortem stuff with him. It might have just been old recordings. I remember reading that at the time. I'm not sure if that's still
he did. He passed away November 13th, 2004. And the movie came out in December 2004.
Yeah. So I feel like one of the last things he did was this original track for Blade Trinity, Thirsty. Great tune. And I think the soundtrack in general here is pretty strong. So during all of these like slow motion walking scenes, it's the instrumental for Fatal that's playing in the background, and that gets me hyped up. But then I see Dominic Purcell with the deepest V and walking around in slow motion, and I'm like, that just sucks all the air out of the room. Yeah. All right. So anyway, Blade has this little interaction there, and somehow Dracula finds out where the Night Stalkers are like living, their base of operations. Do you guys know how he finds this out? I can't remember.
He follows
someone.
Does he follow somebody back?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway,
honestly, in the grand scheme, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
The thing that I was most curious about is why they decided to have the attack be based off of like Whistler was the one that he had impersonated to use it, but they didn't use that at all, did they? Or am I wrong? It was just kind of stalking people as like it wasn't like he walked in and people were like, "Hey, Whistler, I thought you were like." It was just him stalking people as like Mike. I'm convinced that what had happened was the day they shot that, they didn't have Dracula cast, so they're like, before you leave, I know that you've just wrapped, but look, you got like 5 minutes to just stand around and look down on people. You don't have to do anything. Just like, just look at people.
How much you paying me?
Yeah. You don't have to talk. You don't have to say a word.
No, not even
just stand here in this leather coat.
Yeah.
Imagine. Okay, so remember when they went to the doctor's thing to go and interrogate him, and then it was actually Drake, and then he transforms.
Oh, sorry. One quick thing. They called him Drake, and it's just the worst. Okay,
I hate it.
Please continue.
Yeah. So, anyways, and he's wearing Dracula's clothes.
Yeah, that's right.
Imagine if you cut to Chris Christopherson standing over Hannibal King, and he's got this big, deep V-neck all the way down.
You're absolutely right, because the doctor is wearing the deep V-neck shirt, ancient Sumerian, Romanian.
Imagine you go to your doctor's office to talk about something like, doc, did you get the result? And you walk in and he's got this big, deep V. Would you be like, what the fuck's going on, doc? Like, and he's like, all right, sit down and we'll go over your results. And all you can see is this deep V on your doctor.
Yeah, that's all I'd be able to see. Yeah, so I did kind of skip that. It leads into this foot chase with Dracula, but just before that, the reason that they're visiting this doctor, and they establish that Dracula can shapeshift. So that's an important thing, maybe. Yeah, sort of. And so he can shape change. So he shape changes into Whistler and infiltrates the Night Stalkers' abode and systematically kills them all off. Again, really lazy TV, episode, low budget TV episode stuff like going on here. I was not into this at all. They have someone on the Night Stalkers that is blind, which I thought that was an interesting choice, but they don't do a whole lot.
It was a stupid choice, right? Yeah, they just made her blind to make her blind, and everything she was doing would have been greatly like everything would have been so much harder to do what she does if she was blind. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like,
That actress, that was I feel like she's American Pie, right? Like that actress. I can't remember. Yeah,
I think so. I think she was American Pie.
Yeah.
I can't remember. You know what? I might have the cast up here somewhere. But I do really like that actress. She was great. She's pretty good. Orange is the New Black, and she was also in a Netflix film called, or not film. It was a TV series. I think it was called Russian Doll. Russian Dolls.
Yeah.
I can't even remember.
Yeah, no, she's a good actress. I've seen her in other things, and I don't think she's
Leon. That's what it is.
That I do recognize that name. Yeah. I don't think she does a bad job here. I just feel like it was a really kind of random choice for this. There is one interesting payoff here because Dracula does kill her, and again, you're right. The fact that Dracula was like Whistler doesn't play into any of these things. So he basically kidnaps the kid and kidnaps Hannibal King because Hannibal King was injured by Drake. I don't want to call him that. Injured by Dracula. And brought back to the vampire circus tower thing. So, but an interesting thing is when Blade and Abigail Whistler come back from going into the other plot point of the vampire series, which is basically the vampire endgame, they visited a warehouse. And in the warehouse, they have the blood bags, the people in the blood bags. I'm like, oh, this is also interesting. But then all they do is just turn it off, kill hundreds of people.
Yeah, and kill a familiar.
They kill. Yeah, they kill tons of people, and they leave. So, and then that's the last that anybody talks about this blood bag vampire endgame solution there. So when they come back, they discover that the Night Stalkers are all dead. But the only payoff here for her being that one character being blind and being killed is that Dracula writes something like, and I'm paraphrasing, he writes, immortality is only for those who are worthy or something like that in blood. And he's taken extra care to torture her or whatever in particular. So he's basically like, she's blind, so she doesn't deserve the gift of immortality. I'm like, this would actually be an interesting point to make about his personality, but he didn't turn anybody into vampires. Like, he killed everybody.
Yeah.
So apparently immortality is for nobody, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You didn't turn anybody else. It's not like you turned everyone else and you decided to kill her in particular because she's blind. And it's stupid. And then we get the other dumb scene in this movie, which is where Abigail finds the body and she's crying and Blade just standing in the background and he's just going, use it. Yeah. Use it. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. This isn't working for me. Stop it. Stop saying that.
And to seal the deal, he says it one more time.
I feel like he says it 3 times.
He says it 3 times.
Says it 3 times.
Oh, boy.
Use it. Use it. Use it.
It's just not great.
Now, to follow up from this, because not only was that one of the worst movements I've ever seen on film, then after that, he goes and she's shooting arrows into a thing because apparently it really matters how fast she can shoot arrows. Even though, like, when you see the arrows in the thing, they're all over the place. It's not like she's like nicking accuracy. Bullseyes. Oh, yeah, it's like fucking all over the thing. I'm like, that would be more important if you're trying to shoot arrows at people. But anyways, then he goes over to her and says something like, don't let it turn inwards. And she's like, it already has. And I'm like, why didn't you give her that disclaimer earlier when you were telling her to use it? You know, it would have been a lot more helpful if you would have given her some direction other than 2 words 3 times.
Use it. It's my favorite fucking line from this movie. That and don't fuck with my shit. Is that what he says?
Don't you fuck with my thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
I just want to go back to that blood bank scene for a second.
Yeah, let's go.
Because that was the first part of the movie. And I think it's the first time we've had black on black violence in a Blade movie.
Yeah.
No,
I'm just going to call it out. He calls him a motherfucker.
Yeah.
From the deepest part of his soul.
That's right. He does have the
deepest part of his soul. Like, he legit hates him.
He does hate that guy. But you know what? It's not the first instance of black on black violence in the Blade series. In the first movie, there's that little girl that he was chasing around after they fucking barbecue that fat one, the fat vampire.
Yeah.
And she's just kicking, and then he just fucking bitch slaps her. She must have been 13. Well, granted, she's a vampire, but a 13-year-old looking girl vampire who is black, and he lays her the fuck out. It's like, wow. Like, I know that she's evil and this is a fictitious movie, but we should have probably ramped down a little bit on that.
Yeah, and the child abuse is not not very good.
A little bit much, a little too much.
That scene, like that's probably my favorite line from Blade in the entire movie, when he calls him a motherfucker.
Yeah,
like he says it like he has it like with such bass and such anger and such like, are you stupid? Do you know who the fuck I am? Like, bro, like.
Yeah, he says something that's like, "Oh, I can't tell you; they'll kill me." He says, "Motherfucker, I'll kill you," and he grabs him and he pushes him along. Yeah, the bladeness. This is the bladeness moment where he's like, nobody writes that.
No,
Wesley is just like, okay, I'm gonna do it like this, and it's gonna be dope, and it was.
Yeah, that was, and then the training montage. Can we talk about, like, I like Abigail Whistler, as you guys may not, but I like her. I think she was a good character. I wasn't a fan of Hannibal Caine.
Right.
But when we get to that training montage, and like you said, with the arrows, like she's all over the place with them. But then it's like, how are they progressively getting faster? She's not pulling it's an electric fucking arrow. Like, it's one of those compound bows that is set to a certain weight. So how is it getting faster every single time?
Yeah, they're leaving out the part of the training montage where she's torquing it a little bit more and tightening it, which is arguably not training. You're just modifying your bow. Like, I don't understand. The speed is not helping her accuracy, or maybe it is getting better. I don't know, but the board was not like that. Target was all over the map. There was one that wasn't even in the target. Yeah. Like, you've got so many good cinematic examples of like good bow and arrow shooting, like those what was it was
Robin Hood Men in Tights
when he's splitting the arrows, they keep splitting the arrows, like,
and that's
something like that. Something like that.
Yeah, that's what this movie needs, a little more Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Hey man, arguably the best parts in my opinion of this movie are the comical cartoony bits that involve Hannibal King. So I'm all for a little bit of Robin Hood Men in Tights in this film. Bring it on. Let's do it. Bring in a 19-year-old like Dave Chappelle to play Blade instead. That would change the game.
Was he 19 for Robin Hood Men in Tights?
He might have been younger. He might have been younger.
Yes. No, really?
100%.
Chappelle? I think he was young. I think he was 19. Yeah.
I think he might have even been younger than 19.
Yeah.
No
way, man.
Yeah.
I love Robin Hood. So go see Robin Hood Men in Tights instead of Blade Trinity. So that's Black Lightning and Robin Hood Men in Tights for anyone keeping count. For other things to watch instead of this movie.
He was 19.
Yeah, he was 19. I just looked it up. He was 19 when he did it.
Holy shit. Yeah. That's crazy. I think about that. I'm like, Mel Brooks and Dave Chappelle, like, working on the same movie together. I'm like, that just kind of blows my mind. I don't know. There's something about that.
Yeah.
And like, obviously it's not the sum of their parts, because that movie is, I enjoy it, but it is sillier. I feel like the comedy isn't as refined as like Mel Brooks's older stuff, like Young Frankenstein, like his big stuff, Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein, and stuff like that. But man, like Mel Brooks and Dave Chappelle, that's a lot of comedy heavies on one movie. But I guess Chappelle was not the Chappelle we know now, right? He was, I guess, I don't know how famous he was back then. Maybe he was just stand up.
Did he do Half Baked yet, or was it Half Baked? He didn't do that yet?
That came later. But I think this was like the first breakout thing that he did on film. I believe it was probably his first film.
Yeah.
But you see, there was a really important reason that they brought him in there to play that role, and that's because at 19 he was that talented. He was doing stand up earlier than that, if I recall.
Yeah.
I've been a huge Dave Chappelle fan since that movie onwards. Killing, what was it? It's either Killing Him Softly or Killing Them Softly, but you get the drift. That's one of my favorite stand-up specials of all time. It broke me. I mean, Chappelle. Anyways, I could gush on Dave Chappelle forever. And
yeah. No, I agree.
And now I can't stop thinking about him playing Blade in this movie, and I think it would be him plus Ryan Reynolds. This would be a very different.
That'd be a totally different movie.
Yeah, it'd be a different movie for sure. So they get this training montage with silly bow and arrow digital pressure readouts, and we get them racing their motorcycles a little bit. That's fun, and not really. And then they switch over to Hannibal King, who is tied up. Okay, can we talk about how many times this movie is obsessed with Hannibal King's pubes, right? Because I feel like we see Ryan Reynolds pubic hair a lot in this movie,
way too often.
It's like I think we see it twice, and I'm not even sure why it's shown the second time. I just feel like, nobody's talking. Quick, cut to Ryan Reynolds' pubes.
Yeah, these low cut jeans on him are not doing anything.
They are very low.
Yeah, low cut jeans are not.
I still think one of the funniest, unintentionally funny moments in this movie is when Blade is like, "What makes you think that you can handle this?" Whatever. And Ryan Reynolds comes up and he's like, "Well, for starters, I used to be one," and he takes his pants off.
Yeah,
basically.
He pulls them down so far.
What are we doing now? The mood in this room has changed a little. Ryan, you're not reading the room. This isn't this. You're at the wrong party. Right,
pull your pants back up, buddy.
Yeah, you're at the wrong party, buddy. And he does it again, and then we get this great banter between him and Parker Posey. Parker Posey's comedy, I think, works better than Hannibal King's in the context of this film, but both really funny. And Blade and Abigail Whistler attack to save Ryan Reynolds. Oh, so the other thing I wanted to mention was there are scenes where Blade just stands there and says nothing in this movie. He actually doesn't. I had to watch it. I'd have to watch it again, but I probably won't, because why would I do that to myself? But I don't think he actually ever responds to Hannibal King. I don't think do they ever converse? I think maybe there's only one scene. The other scenes, Hannibal King says something stupid or funny or silly, and Blade just looks at him and walks away. And that happens 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I can't recall a full-on dialogue between the two of them.
Yeah, I don't think they talk to each other.
It's always even when one says something to the other and there's no response.
That's it. That's it. So even when they so again, the benefits from this is Wesley Snipes and not Blade, because he's just fucking pissed off. It's like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Fuck this clown.
Stealing my movie.
Yeah.
I paid for this bitch.
So even when he goes to save him, he goes into the room and walks right by him.
Yeah.
Just needs to give a fuck. Abigail Whistler comes down and frees him. And then we get this really dumb we get this really dumb thing with the dogs. So we have a couple of vampire Pomeranians in this movie, and I think it's not a Doberman. I think it's a Rottie.
The Rottweilers.
A couple Rottweilers. Yeah.
Oh, is it 2 Rottweilers and 1 Pomeranian? Sorry.
1 Pomeranian.
Yeah. So can you guys tell me, this is a real nerd thing and not in a nitpick, but that's kind of what we do here. Did they give these dogs the Reaper virus?
See, that was my question. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking about is when you see Dracula in his true form, he looks like a Reaper.
Yeah, he's got the
dislocated jaw. Stuff. And then I'm in the previous movie, we had Reapers, and that was an evolution of the vampires, right?
Right.
So I was like, is Dracula really a Reaper? Yeah. Or is this what we're supposed to be?
Yeah. They've just been
diluted so much that we're just regular vampires.
Yeah.
And then the Reapers were just what we're supposed to be, and they're closer to Dracula than the vampires are.
I actually take that second point that you made there, and I thought thinking about it that way actually kind of makes this whole thing make sense, kind of, because even Dracula, in the one piece of interesting dialogue, is that you guys have lost your way, as vampires as a race. He's just so depressed with kind of where they've gone, that he was the pinnacle, and then the Reapers, even though genetically designed, they were moving in that direction. They're like, if there's going to be an evolution, it's going to look like that, which I think the point you're making is actually correct. I think that's what it's supposed to be. But the dogs have the dislocated jaws too, and the tongue, and the stinger or whatever. And I'm like, oh, did they give him the Reaper virus? They give them vampire, regular OG vampire. But I was confused by that.
Yeah, I was confused by it as well. But I was always wondering. I'm like, are we looking at Reapers here, or are we looking at, is Dracula actually a Reaper and that's what we're supposed to look like, or are we dealing with like someone who's, you know, diluted so far down that they're just water essentially?
Water. The water of vampires.
Yeah,
the Coors Light of vampires.
Yes, if you Coors
Light. So we have these dogs and they chase Ryan Reynolds and he kills all three of them, which I'm sure makes lots of people unhappy.
By them running out of a fucking window.
Yeah.
Because they can't stop.
Yes, they can't stop.
Fucking trash.
The disdain.
I love how fucking mad you are.
Fuck, man.
So we have this whole attack sequence on this base. Blade actually gets a relatively decent action scene again, but not as good as the first one, where he gets his lobby scene again.
Yeah, the sword play was good though. The sword play was actually pretty decent.
He gets this lobby scene. He uses the S blade in a really cool way. I thought he throws the S blade and kind of jumps to another part of the balcony and catches it and drops a bunch of vampires. That was pretty cool. And we get Hannibal King fighting Triple H, who has grills, by the way.
Okay.
Did you guys notice this?
I'm glad you pointed that out because I'm like, aren't these motherfuckers allergic to silver?
Yes.
Why the fuck are these grills fucking silver?
Are they?
Yeah.
They're silver colored, but I can't imagine they're actually silver.
Oh man.
You know Triple H is an idiot. You know he put in silver.
That could be true.
It's entirely possible. They did this little gag where they put little silver filings or whatever in the air conditioning system. And it's just Triple H choke. Triple H burps up like a fireball. Like this is the kind of like zany shit that's happening in Blade now. See? Like
we're watching a Deadpool movie. That's what the fuck we're watching. We're not watching a Blade movie.
Right. So he has this really what I think is just an awful fight. Like I think this fight is terrible between him and Hannibal King. And I remember they were bigging this fight up in some of the featurettes and stuff leading up to the movie. And it's awful. It's not good at all.
It's a WWE match. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but it's like worse than that.
It's worse than that.
Yeah,
like
it's worse than that.
When you watch like amateur wrestling and they like whisper the moves in each other's ear when they grapple. Backflip. You ready for the right off the turnbuckle? Okay.
Yeah.
Like you can see them mouthing shit at each other. It's like, bro, like come on.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not remotely believable that a vampire, a guy of Triple H's size.
Mm-hmm.
Also a vampire.
Yes.
And Hannibal King is a human and he's not completely eviscerated in the first 10 seconds of this fight. Like I just think that's it's kind of ridiculous. And again, they did nothing to make Triple H threatening in this movie. Not a single thing.
Goofy as fuck.
He's just a big guy with silver grills, which I'm looking at the picture for right now.
Steel. It's actually steel, and it was an homage to like the Jaws character from James Bond. One thing that's actually notable here, which I think is actually kind of neat, is Ryan Reynolds was a fan of Triple H, so he actually did all the stunts. He didn't
for this fight.
For the fight. Like he actually wanted to do this with Triple H, so
nice.
He did his own stunts in this because of that. That's
I would neat. Too. Like if I'm in a movie and I'm going up against like someone I appreciate and I can do a stunt with him. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean the wrestlers are trained stuntmen in and of themselves. You know, I mean that's kind of their job essentially.
He's gonna take care of you and teach you how to take a proper bump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and nobody better too. I mean, technically, he's one of the best in-ring performers of all time. I think.
Whoa! Let's not go there.
I don't know, man. Triple H is talented, dude.
Nah, bro, Bret
Hart. Yeah, all right.
Well, I mean, like, I'm not saying
if you're going technical, we got to go with the heart.
Of course. I'm just saying if there was a top 20 list, he's probably on top 20.
100%. He's on my top 10 for sure, though.
Yeah. I'd have to think about that. We should do a wrestling podcast.
Oh, we can do that.
We can definitely do that,
dude. That'd be fun. I feel like this movie took all of the wrong lessons from Blade 2, where they're like, oh, everybody loved that suplex in Blade 2. We should have a wrestler in Blade 3.
Yeah.
I feel like that was like the decision-making process for this.
Everybody liked the Reapers. Let's make dog Reapers. Like, no, that's not what we're after.
That's not what we're talking about.
Sorry. We had blood bags in the first one. Let's put people in blood bags. Like Blood bags in the first one. Let's put people in blood bags. Like David Goyer, stop it. With your crazy ass ideas. All right, I'm done.
So we move from here. He kills Triple H by throwing like one of the bullets, the Sundog bullets, like UV bullet in his mouth.
Yeah, in his mouth.
And he dies. Yeah, and Abigail Whistler has her own little action sequence. Again, I don't think this is particularly well shot. It's not very convincing when she's fighting multiple targets. And she puts in headphones and listens to her iPod while she fights. And it's just complete lunacy. Like, I just can't. Back then, I couldn't get behind it. And I rewatched it again recently for this show. And I'm just like, this is in a movie full of bad decisions, this has got to be one of the worst ones. It's the most offensive one. When I see it, I'm like, oh, why are we doing this?
I was down for it when they said that she used it when she was hunting, like when he was fucking Ryan Reynolds is talking the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, she puts in her headphones and plays her playlist and whatever.
Yeah. What do the kids listen to? Trip hop, Ryan Reynolds isms, lines that Justin loved and I didn't.
Exactly.
Like.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I get it when you're hunting. You just have your headphones in. It's like when you're going to work. You have your headphones in and you zone everything out and you're just doing what you're fucking doing.
Yeah.
But you're in a fucking middle of a fucking fight scene in a fucking building with 12 vampires coming at you.
Yeah,
hold on a second. Let me put my headphones in. Hold up. Let me get my Kill Vampire playlist out.
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's go.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm ready now. I'm ready now.
So silly, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we get Blade having his own showdown with Dracula. And so we get this fight scene. So now this one actually has a pretty great line to start it off when he says, Blade, ready to die. And Blade's response is, I was born ready, motherfucker. He says that. And I was like,
everything is motherfucker in this movie for him. Everything.
Yeah. And it's funny because I hear that line all the time because that's the line that opens up Fatal, the track. Like the actual song has this. So I hear this in my head all the time. And I think this is the only movie. It's the only movie I've seen. And that's not true. Sorry. I was going to say Dracula throws a couch at Blade, or Blade throws a couch at Dracula. At one point, he sticks his sword in a couch and he throws a couch at him. And I'm like, this is the only movie I can remember that someone does that, but that's not true. The first fight scene in Aquaman, Queen Mara, sorry, not Mara.
She does.
She throws a couch at someone too. And I'm like, all right. So there is one more movie there. Yeah. The inspiration for Aquaman was Blade Trinity, by the way. So yeah. The couch throwing incident. Anyway, so they have this fight. Inexplicably, when they're fighting, Blade tackles Dracula and they land on the ground. And for whatever reason, I don't know what, they landed on a fault line or something like that. The place just fucking explodes. Yeah. Why? What the hell happened?
They weren't even falling that far. Like it looked like they just fell like they fell
one floor.
If that.
Yeah, like
it just goes boom, and there's a giant fucking crater, like a meteor hit.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell happened here? Insanity. So this fight, not particularly memorable. It is a sword fight, which is nice. It's a bit of a throwback to Blade 1, because they didn't have significant sword play in the second movie.
No.
But Blade 1 they did. And anyway, they had this sword fight. Nothing great here.
I kind of like that they did the sword fight though. I'll give the movie credit for that, because in the movie he specifically left when he was getting saved. He specifically left them to go get his sword back.
Yes, that's right.
And then jumped out the window. So
yeah.
The fact that he's using his sword at the end is like, okay, it's kind of like the nigga went to go get his sword back, so let him use it.
Use it. So so thank God the crater thing didn't happen when he jumped out of the 12th story window. Otherwise, everyone would be dead.
Yeah. That would have made more sense for the cop scenes, though, for the cops not being able to follow.
That would have been a much more pliable, or that would have made a lot more sense for them to get away if there was a crater.
Right. So then we get Dracula's transformation into his true form. I didn't mind this. I was like, they went an interesting way with his true form. They even have like kind of the Batman ears thing going on. He's all purple. He has the jaws open up. I remember reading an interview with David Goyer saying that for the creature design, he was going to Guillermo del Toro and asking him, and went back to Stephen Norrington because he still had relationships with these other directors. And he was asking them about, Norrington sent him some designs and drawings, and I think del Toro did as well. I'm paraphrasing here because this is stuff I read many years ago when the movie came out. But he did reach out to these guys to say, hey, I was thinking about this. What do you think about this? And I think that's really cool to be able to just go back to these, like, excellent filmmakers, to have excellent filmmaker friends, to just be like, hey, I'm going to do this creature thing. What do you guys think of this? And then they come back and say, hey, do you guys ever hear the story? There's a story about Predator, the design for Predator. And I think like Stan Winston was on a plane and he was sitting next to James Cameron. And I'm pretty sure I have this story right. We could fact check later, but I think Stan Winston was doing some initial designs for the Predator in the first movie. And James Cameron looks over. He's like, you know what I've never seen before? I've never seen a creature with tusks. Like, I haven't seen anything with tusks before. And Stan Winston's like, goes back and starts drawing this like other thing, which of course in the Predator does have the teeth that open up and the tusks that click together and stuff. Just to have like dope, creative friends that are just like, hey, let me bounce this idea off you. And I think that's pretty neat. And I think it's apparent that Dracula, like this design, was kind of like Goyer reaching out to other folks.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't his idea.
Shade.
Damn. Yeah. I wasn't going to go that far, but there it is. So that was decent. And then anyway, they end the scene by Blade stabbing Dracula with this Daystar virus, which is an Norton antivirus for vampires, which basically will just kill vampires in an aerosol way, basically. I'm just waving my hands around because I don't really understand exactly how it was supposed to work. But
it's coronavirus for fucking vampires.
For vampires. Yeah, that's right. Then we get the ending, and our two detectives show up randomly now because they've not been in any of the movie, and they show up and they finally see evidence of the real vampires. Then at the very end, Dracula does have an interesting conversation with Blade saying that, oh, I don't need to be alive. You are the next evolution of vampires. I thought that was an interesting exchange.
That was a good transfer of like, you're the new, the thirst always wins, or some point. That. Like at some point you are going to lose to the thirst, and you are going to be the evolution of me.
Yeah. And then we get the very end where he gives him a gift, where he's like, he shapeshifts into Blade to throw the police off Blade's trail, and Blade roams the night free, and we get a Ryan Reynolds voiceover again, I think, at the end, right? And Ryan Reynolds also does a voiceover for what could have been a really cool Dracula flashback scene where he tells Blade about the history of Dracula. Ruined by Ryan Reynolds' voiceover. Ryan Reynolds' voice ruins many things in this movie.
Like, I like Ryan, but I can't do it in this movie.
Right, that's fair. Right. So that's basically the end of the movie. What did you guys think of this ending and like the action sequences and all of that wonderful stuff?
I was a bit confused by Dracula giving Blade his gift and transforming into him so that way the police can get the wrong guy. Because I thought he was already dead when the virus hit him. So I thought his last breath was him telling him, we'll give him something, but I didn't know he could transform. Because he went from being a monster to the human version of himself, which is also weird because shouldn't he stay as the monster form if that's his original form? It doesn't make any sense.
And Blade just got up and left, I guess.
Like gets up and just bounces.
It's also not much of a
gift. He's just like, yo, I'm out.
And you're right. You were saying it's not much of a gift because he ends up turning back into Dracula on the operating table.
I guess we don't have the guy unless the cops are like, it was this guy the whole time.
This guy. Yeah,
they weren't very good detectives. Who knows what they thought?
No, they weren't. There are alternate endings to this movie because I bought the DVD when it came out. And there's a couple of alternate endings. One alternate ending is a weird one where Blade is on the autopsy table, and instead of the body turning back into Dracula, he actually gets up and attacks everybody all the doctors.
See, that would make more sense to me.
I think he actually kills them because I think it's implied that it's Dracula that's still alive. I think that's what that ending was implying. So that's one ending. And then the next ending is the more fucking crazy one. This ending is actually all about Abigail Whistler and Hannibal King. And it takes place, I think, in Atlantic City or Vegas or somewhere. Have you seen this?
It's a casino. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. It's a casino.
It's fucking ridiculous.
It's total fucking insanity because like they come in and Abigail Whistler's there, and I can't remember. I've seen this many years ago, but I'm again paraphrasing. But Hannibal King gets thrown through a window and lands there. You don't know what through. He's in the middle of a casino, gets thrown through a window. You don't know why he's thrown through the window. And Abigail Whistler's like, "Oh, Hannibal King, you know, whatever. Oh, you." He's like, "Well, no, you crazy fella." And then something's in there that threw him out. And what is in there? It's a fucking like werewolf, right? It's a werewolf, but he looks like a hyena. It's like a hyena wolf hybrid thing going on. And he comes out and they attack the werewolf. And that's the end of the movie, implying that the Night Stalkers basically continue. And there are other creatures or denizens of the night that they hunt. And I just remember watching that. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like it totally comes out.
I have to go back to my DVD collection and look at that ending.
Yeah, it's on there.
Actual ending on my server, so I have to look at that. But
yeah,
that would have saved the movie for me.
Yeah,
that ending with
the second
ending with the Night Stalkers would have saved the movie for me. I would have been a lot happier with that ending, because then that way, if they gave me an ending with them fighting something else, and then there was like a little snippet of like a dude on a motorcycle going through like the city, then I'd be like, oh, Blade is still alive.
Yeah.
And these guys are still out hunting, fighting other monsters other than vampires, because vampires are technically dying off because of the
Daystar. That's right.
That's cool.
So
idea.
that would have made me feel a lot more happier.
Sure, yeah.
Still be pissed that Ryan Reynolds stole a movie from Blade.
That's fair.
You know?
Yeah. Would you like, you saw those endings, right, Justin?
I did. I didn't remember the one where he got up from the table and started killing. I would never. And now that you mention it, I do remember that, but I never got the sense that it was actually Dracula. I
could be wrong about that. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's a different ending where it doesn't cut back to the road and you see, Blade right off in the distance. It's actually he gets up and like I feel like he attacks everyone. And I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be Blade or it was supposed to be Dracula's still alive. I wasn't sure, but
I'd have to rewatch that. But the werewolf one I remember very well, and I remember the design. I liked the design of the creature, but I thought that the actual creature
it was all practical. Which was crazy.
It looked janky. That's the problem. It moved poorly. It just like it looked like an early kind of an early attempt at this type of thing in an older movie. And it just didn't fit. It didn't fit at all. I like the idea. I think it's kind of cool that you're playing on that. There's a bigger universe than just vampires here.
Right.
But yeah, ultimately I can see why it got cut. And also I think at this point they're just like, you know what? Let's just wrap on Blade, because like this was not a good experience. We'll wait like 20 years and we'll get a better set of actors for this and go try it again, which they're hopefully doing soon. But the thing to note about this is it's funny. We were talking about this before we started rolling, and this movie was a financial success. It had a $65 million budget. It ended up grossing, I think you said 160 something million.
132 million in the box office.
In the box office. In the box office. For an R-rated
sales
film
and all that shit too after that too, right?
Exactly. So, for an R-rated, well, let's face it, they didn't make a lot on DVD sales, but for an R-rated film, that's a pretty good haul. And on a $65 million budget, that's good. That's sequel money right there.
That's not. It's not bad. I think you're supposed to make like three. Like I don't know what the rule of thumb is. Like 3 times maybe to be really like truly successful. But I don't think they lost money on this movie.
No. They would have with that they wouldn't have lost money on this. Yeah. But at the same time, like that's pretty close to sequel money, especially with a franchise like Blade. The thing is, though, after this third film, you're not going to have people coming into the fourth film. It was similar, like when we were working on Shrek 4, one of the hard things was getting people to come to that because Shrek 2 was so good. And a lot of people came to see Shrek 3, and it was not nearly the same par.
Right.
So it was financially very successful. but the fourth one ate shit because the third one was so bad. That would have probably happened with this.
Right.
So maybe that's why they didn't do it. But ultimately, like at the end of the day, making this film was also seemingly a nightmare. And if you were going to make another Blade film, you're going to need to probably bring back Wesley Snipes to bring in the same audience for this sequel.
Yeah.
And at that point, I feel like either Wesley Snipes wasn't going to do it or was going to take a little trip up the river for tax evasion.
Going to prison for not paying taxes on 3 different Blade movies.
Yeah.
And then some, probably.
And then, also, what was it? Coming to America as well.
Yeah, he's coming to America.
He wasn't in the.
He wasn't in the
He was in the first one, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't.
The first one, wasn't
he? No, he's in the second one.
He was in U.S. Marshals. That was sorry.
That was
yes. He wasn't. Yeah,
I just recently rewatched that and I completely forgot he was in it.
Yeah,
I was just like, holy shit, Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, it's honestly, to be honest, it's good to see Wesley back in movies again. I love it. I think it's great that he's back, like Coming to America 2 and Dolomite. He was in that as well, actually. But yeah, I heard. Yeah, he's I recently a buddy of mine worked at like a place that makes custom stickers, and he gave me this sticker, and I looked at it, I'm like, this is fucking Wesley Snipes from New Jack City, like a random sticker. I don't know if you guys have seen New Jack City before.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Because he just delivers like the dopest line in that movie where he's I'm gonna butcher it here, but he says, so you sit your $5 ass down before I make change. I was like, oh, fucking killer. Yeah, I just love that line. So, and I was thinking about that, like that sticker, and then I was thinking about like, man, it's good to see like Wesley back in movies. Like, I'm just kind of happy to see him working again. And that being said, the one way to bring Blade back and bring an audience with him is to attach the character to an already well-established, money-making franchise / universe, which is what Marvel is doing right now.
Yeah.
With Mahershala Ali coming in to play Blade. So if you were going to switch him, like switch the actor, and you'd have to bring in significant amount of like other clout to draw the audience in, and they certainly have that. They have that already, right?
I'm a fan of. I have this vision of Wesley Snipes being Whistler in the new MCU version of Blade.
That'd be so dope.
That would blow my fucking mind.
Yeah.
I would be the first person to like pay $100 a ticket to go see that.
Yeah. That would be
to save the box office. I will pay $100 to see that.
No, man, that would be so dope. I would love to see that. Nothing against Mahershala. I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but I like him, but Wesley, like having a Blade movie without Wesley being involved at all, it's a tough sell for guys like us who grew up with with those movies. For folks who are younger, it's an easier sell. But it'd be great to get him in that movie. I'd love to see him with like a bit of a beard, shaved head, fucking tattoos off the top. Yeah,
with the tattoos still, and then like
sick.
A training scene with him and Mahershala Ali, like teaching him how to do the sword play. Oh, what?
That'd be killer.
Yeah. That right there would sell the movie. Like that's the trailer. Just them two doing a sword training scene. Done. I am there. Where's my wallet? How much is a ticket?
Yeah. I'm 100%.
That could be the only good scene in the movie, and I will be like, here's my money. Here it is.
Yeah, man. It's amazing. I agree. So that's Blade Trinity. Any other thoughts on this movie?
I'm glad it's done.
I'm glad it's over.
Like, bro,
yeah,
that was such a tough watch.
It was
such a tough watch to do again.
It was,
and like, I just don't want to get into it again because we'll be here for another 2 hours.
Yeah, fucking creatively bankrupt. I feel like this movie is a way I would describe this movie.
I think. Yeah. If you're going to rewatch this film, the best way to do it is just go on YouTube, find the scene where he's yelling at the Night Stalkers, and frame it in your mind that this is happening in real life.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is an actual conversation that people had.
Every scene where Blade doesn't respond or yells at someone or just looks disgusted, it's just Wesley Snipes on set.
Yeah. Or calls him a motherfucker. That's just him being angry.
That's just how he feels.
That's just Wesley Snipes. That's not Blade. That's Wesley.
It's Wesley Snipes. This is Wesley Snipes Trinity. That's what this movie is called from now on.
Yeah.
What was that? We have nicknames. We don't have a nickname for the first one, but the nickname for the second one, Blade 2, Juices Everywhere. That's the nickname. That's the fucking name of Blade 2. When you said that shit, I'm like, that's how, like, whenever I think of Blade 2 now, I'm like, somebody's like, how would you describe Blade 2 in 2 words? Juices everywhere. That's exactly what I would use to describe it.
Oh man,
yeah, no, it's fun stuff. I'm really happy we got to do these 3 movies, to be honest, man. And thank you so much, Antoine, for joining us.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me out, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, this has been a lot of fun. And you know, fuck, when the next Blade movie comes out, we should get you back on, and we should get you back on and like review that movie too.
I am about that life because I will be the first person in line. I have my COVID vaccine, so I will be the first person in line to buy a ticket when they announce that shit is going to theater.
Yeah, amazing, man. Dude.
Or if it's on Disney Plus and you have to pay your $45 to get it, I will pay my $45 to watch it.
I will actively pay money to watch that movie. I'm wondering, well, I'm certainly when that movie comes out, you know, things will be. I'm hoping we get to go to the theater to see the next Blade movie. I really do hope so.
I may not pay the money that Disney wants for Black Widow, but I will pay it for Blade.
Yeah. Black Widow is actually coming out this year, right?
Yeah, it's coming out next month, I think.
Oh, next month. Yeah. Okay. It is soon. And they're doing that premium thing
with that premium split thing where some of it's in box office because the US is still gung-ho about letting people go outside.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to actually, you know what? We'll save for another episode. Never mind.
Uh-oh. All right. Cool. Mysterious.
Yeah.
All right. I think we can probably, what's that?
Save it.
Save it. I gotta save this video. Save it. Oh fuck! What is? Give me one more, Justin. Give me one more rendition of James Remar in this movie, please. Give me one more of those.
Don't fuck with my thing.
I think that's what Wesley Snipes was yelling on set before every take. and
he should be. As a producer, he should be.
Absolutely.
James Remar was just on the side being like, I'm going to use that in another scene.
Wesley, do you mind if I use it?
Oh, God.
Are you sure? Right. Use it. Okay, I'm going to just ask you this one more time. Are you sure? Use it. Okay, that's 3. I'm out. Let's go.
Oh, mercy. Okay.
Oh, man.
Let's wrap it up. This has been Atul.
This has been Justin.
And Antoine.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time. Peace.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Later.
See ya.
That man is my prisoner. Don't fuck with my thing.
Use it.